Let's go, Lofi Poli Sci, coming at you. Michael Pickering here with our good friend Gregory Day, a writer, director, bookseller, and the voice behind HipsvilleAD, the fanatical sect of the god of subculture and fervent ramblings of all breed of cinematic pleasures. How we doing out there, Gregory Day?
Doing great, man. How are you?
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Yes, indeed. How's your winter going over there out in Texas, huh?
It's going all right now. It's about 80 degrees here, but about 2 weeks ago, we had a pretty bad storm come through town. Had a Texas chainsaw my way through my lawn here, but things are getting back to normal.
Good to hear. 80 degrees today. Goodness gracious.
Mm-hmm,
That's a huge difference.
Yeah,
Well, what do we have for us today, my friend? What kind of top 10 lists you coming with?
yeah, it's our first real original top 10 list of the year. So we're gonna come in strong with top 10 21st century genre picks.
I like this a lot because you over at HipsvilleAD, you're all about the genre.
Oh
Um,
yes.
and give us just a broad definition of genre real quick for all of our new listeners. Like, don't dive into anything that'll spoil later conversations with later movies, but like whenever you say genre film, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, there's the genre staples, which most of all stories fit into, but genre cinema specifically is, maybe another way of saying exploitation cinema. And this is something that drills down on, horror or car movies or kung fu movies. These kinds of like small niche genres that are for bygone eras, but these are maybe not the most PC things, or they do seek to capitalize on sex and violence for audiences. They're kind of films that turn people on.
I think that's a great way to, like I said, to keep it broad for right now.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, I'm so interested to talk about this list. But let's go. I don't want to spoil anything. So what do you got coming in at number 10?
Yeah, number 10 is called Attack the Block from 2014. Many of the films in this list are going to be genre staples, or they're going to be mashups of genres or interpretations of them. And this is a great way to start this list off because it is an alien invasion movie, but it's got a good twist. It's an alien invasion film set in the South London housing project, and it's set overnight where this little gang of kids who they're not. They're not the most honest, and sometimes they're pickpockets, so they do graffiti and things, and so they're the ones who have to rise above it all to fight these aliens off to save their housing project. And so this is a really fun film. I mean, it stars John Boyega, who's now famous for being in the Star Wars films, and it stars Jodie Whittaker, who was the first female Doctor Who. This is all before they found fame elsewhere, but in this little genre flick, it just got a great setting where it's like like a Die Hard or an Alien, where it's contained to one location, and these kids have to survive the night. But it's also a great it's a great twist on the subgenre, if you will call it, of the kids on bikes trope, like E.T. But a lot of American films, that trope is set in the suburbs, and so that transplants this to this housing project in a very urban setting of these young kids on bikes who have to fight these rather vicious aliens that are trying to take over their neighborhood. So this is a great film, and I mean, I don't know, have you ever seen this one?
Okay, so I know of this one like really well. Like I'd seen it like advertised on Amazon Prime and then other stuff before, but like I just vaguely read a little bit and I was like, I'm not even gonna bother. I'm not gonna waste my time. But my friend, I watched this trailer and I was like, what have I been doing with my life? This looks fantastic. I was like, I was dying through the entire trailer. It was so funny. And I did recognize John Boyega and so many others in this film. And I was like, this is like, it kind of reminded me of Leprechaun in the Hood, but aliens in the ghetto, but
Yeah.
in London. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, I'm gonna watch this during Mardi Gras break or something. I have to. Like this is I was surprised that this I was expecting like genre films. I wasn't expecting this. And my friend, I was like, you got me with this one. This one looks good.
Yeah. We'll say also, like, if anyone who hasn't seen it out there or has at least seen the trailer or seen the film, like the aliens are very particular looking in this film. They look like almost like featureless monkeys, where you can't see anything in their eyes or their face or anything. But once they open their mouth, they have these glow in the dark teeth. And while it may look like CGI, the aliens in the film are 100% practically made. And it's just a great feat also of like low budget filmmaking to make this like really fun adventure film. With this setting, which is very intriguing. So yeah, if you've never seen this one, if you're not really into genre films, this one would be probably more approachable for most people.
I think so. I think so. That's what really attracted me. It didn't knock on the door, say genre, genre, genre. It was
Yeah.
like, whoa, this can be fun. And that's really how it came off. So
Mm-hmm.
Attack the Block 2014. I'm gonna check this one out, my friend.
Yeah, yeah.
But what you got coming in at number 9?
Yeah, number 9, we're talking about The Proposition from 2005. Um, one of the biggest staples of all genres cinema, whether it's like mainstream cinema or if you're getting drilled down to B movies or like spaghetti westerns, it is the Western. And so there's no better place to take the Western than what this film does. And I'll get back to that in a second. But, when I was making this list, I was thinking about the Western and where's the Western now? We did a Western episode before, but in the 21st century, the Western is kind of getting to a point of like trying to not revise our history, but get to more of a truth with Westerns and American history, with films like The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford or Meek's Cutoff, really getting to an accurate depiction of the West. But what The Proposition does is it does do that, but it takes the Western in a whole new area by transplanting it to Australia. And it's got the British rule, it's got the outlaws, obviously, the criminals who were shipped there, and then it has the Aboriginals who are suffering in the same way that the indigenous tribes of America did during colonization here. And so this is a film written by the musician Nick Cave, and it's stars Guy Pearce, and it's about this lawman who is after this very nefarious outlaw who captures the outlaw's 2 younger brothers, and he forces the middle brother to kill his older brother, otherwise he's going to execute the youngest brother.
Damn.
So that's the proposition at the center of the film, and the title comes from. And so it's just this really rough Western, but it's set in Australia, where it's like never ending deserts. And yeah, it just transplants all those wonderful tropes of the American West to another land, and it works spectacularly.
This one looked so good. And a lot of the cast, I knew exactly who they were. And I looked at the date 2005 and I was like, how did I miss this? Like, again, this was when we were both working in cinemas not far from each other. And like we were into all of this, all the film industry was huge to us. And this is something that should have come up on my radar. So I blame you for not telling me back in 05, my friend. This looked really, really good to take the American Western and put it in Australia, and take the struggles of the Native Americans and put it into the struggles of the Aboriginal people of Australia, and to draw the kind of contrast. And then the proposition in and of itself, like kill one of your brothers to save your other brother's life. And it's like the stakes are high. And it's gripping. This is now on my list to watch as well. So you're like 2 for 2 right now, buddy. Like your first 2 films are ones that I am gonna watch.
I hope so.
All right, where are you going for number 8? Let's see if you can go 3 for 3 with this one.
Yeah, maybe not with this one. We'll see. This is one of my favorite genre films that's come out in the last 5 years. But to preface it, I got talking about and I think I've talked about a little bit before. There's this genre. It's a bygone genre. It's not really like a big thing anymore. It's called the giallo. It's a murder mystery subgenre from Italy that deals a lot with like dream logic and psychedelia. But at its heart, it's a murder mystery genre. And so there is a lot of pastiche kind of updates on this genre here lately. A lot of films have come out with the influence of that genre, but nothing quite reaches it as well as Knife and Heart from 2018. And it's this film from director Jan Gonzalez, who is taking the genre in a different direction by exploring this group of queer friends, I would call them, or colleagues, who were working in the gay porn industry in the early 80s in France. And there's this mass killer who's knocking off knocking them off one by one using a giant dildo with a knife inside of it. And so it's part comedy, and it's really, it's poking fun at the for lack of a better term, like the comedy that comes along with porn acting, as well as the pastiche of 80s horror films and these European art house cinema, to tell the story of this alcoholic film director who's trying to push her crew forward as people keep getting murdered around them, and because of her alcoholism, she's maybe losing time or her perception of what's happening around her. And so as it gets to the heart of the film, you kind of wonder what is truly going on. But unlike a lot of films from the past, this film does really have a strong emotional punch when it comes to the murders, and the ending it's kind of a tearjerker for a genre film. And so this is a great way to take an old worn genre, and spruce it up and take it into the modern era, because back in the 70s when these films were being made, didn't really explore a lot of themes of homosexuality like this film does. And this is a really great reworking of an old style.
When this one started off, it took me by surprise in comparison to the other two that we previously talked about. Like, this definitely tells you that this is the trailer. I mean, it told me that this is a suspense murder thriller about the male gay porn industry in France, but really about so much more than that. And I don't like suspense or thriller or horror, but my friend, this looked good as hell. Like, there was so much in this, even in the little like 2-3 minutes of the trailer, that I was like, I want to see where that storyline goes. I want to see where that storyline goes. And it did deal with some of like the stigmas about homosexual porn industry in the public sphere. Like, the director, or at least I'm presuming she was the director, she was in the police station, and one of her lead cast male members had just been murdered. And she's telling to the cops, and the cops are like, well, what kind of film were you making? And she looks at him and she's like, what fucking kind of film I was making? Like, why are you even,
yeah.
why do you want me to say that it was homosexual porn? Like, you already know this. You just want to ostracize me. And I think something like that is really great. Even though this film was in 2018, I think it's still something that like is being talked about a lot. So I thought this was like this. There's so much in this little 2-3 minutes worth of trailer that I want to explore this film. Even though I'm not into like suspense thriller, but
yeah,
it looks good as hell.
Yeah, I would say it is pastiche enough to where it's not necessarily, and this is not a knock against the film, because it's not really aiming for this, where it's not truly scary. It's not really going for that.
Okay.
It's more so exploring a lot of the things around it and how the mechanics of the genre work. And so yeah, like the killings and things, whether else sometimes are graphic in nature, that it's not really trying to scare you more so than it is examining the genre and then how it relates to the themes the director is working with.
This is excellent. And I am going to say you are 3 for 3 right now. All right. 3 for 3 we are.
Yes. All right.
So
all right.
excellent. Take us into number 7 now.
Yeah, I can't imagine that you would, if you haven't seen this one, that you would not want to watch it. But there's many genres that we're going to be talking about here because they're so important to genre cinema. And this was the martial arts film, and the biggest martial arts film in the new century has to be The Raid from 2011. This is a major achievement in the refashioning of this genre. It's from Indonesia. It's about these cops who are raiding this building that's owned by a drug lord, and it almost has like a video game kind of plot where they have to go floor by floor to get through the henchmen of the drug lord to get to the top. He lives in the penthouse, but basically the drug lord locks them in there and tells everyone who is either a gang member or a drug addict or everyone who lives in the building basically is related to his business in one way or another. And so if you help kill these cops, you will get free rent for life. So these cops have to fight their way through the building. And as they lose their weapons, it becomes a martial arts film. And it's just intense. I mean, it's like, it takes all of the old, intensity of Kung Fu films, but it also like kind of updates it with more of a, influence from like the Jason Bourne films. It comes with some really, new flourishes and new ways of trying to explore, hand-to-hand combat in films, and it's got one of the most just beautifully choreographed fights in the finale of the film. So yeah, this is just something else, and it just really changed the game after this to where now I think martial arts films now are really aimed at how intense combat can be. It's all goes back to this film.
So I'm ashamed to say this because this film is so well known to me. It's held in such high regard. Everyone who has seen this film says, much like you said, this is the new age martial arts film of the century, of the millennia. Like, it's the best. But I have not seen it. Like, it has been on my side list for so long. And even the storyline you gave, I am highly aware that the Carl Urban movie Dread, when Judge
yes.
it stole the exact same thread, like beat for beat, going up this 30-story building. Like Dread stole it from The Raid. And even in like John Wick #2 or #3, like two of the guys from The Raid are in the John Wick movie, because like this movie brought the people who participated in it up to international fame as like true martial artists. Like the follow-ups to even your Bruce Lee's, your Jackie Chan's, your Jet Li's, like these guys from The Raid, they're in a whole lot of stuff now, and they're going to have probably some really good careers because of this film. And my friend, you are 4 for 4 right now. Like this one is, I'm going to watch it because I had never seen a trailer. I'll be honest with you, because I knew what the movie was so much, and I knew it paralleled Dread, and I've seen Dread. Like I never took the time to watch the trailer. And after watching it, I was like, what have I been doing with my life? I was like, I know where I was in 2011, and I should have been watching this movie.
Yeah, I saw it when it came out. It was something else. And then of course, there's The Raid 2. I would highly recommend. I mean, The Raid is like a 90-minute pot boiler, where The Raid 2 is like an epic. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. And that thing is also a landmark in martial arts and action cinema.
You're rocking it with this list, man. I've heard of Raid 2 before, and I will have to watch that one too. All right, well, what do we have coming in at #6? What's next for us?
Yeah. We can't talk about genre cinema without talking about horror movies.
Of course not.
But yeah, I wanted to go with one that would be, obviously horror is not dying in any way like some of the other genres we're talking about on this list, but it's still as popular as ever. But I wanted to go with something that would be that's a landmark. We have a lot of horror films come out, and a lot of films that are called the scariest movie ever, and then you forget about it in 6 months. But one great movie that has come out in this millennia is Shaun of the Dead from 2004. There's no doubt about it. It's a comedy, yes, but it is a true blue zombie movie. But it also has a great emotional core at the center of the film. It's about Shaun, who's just this sort of couch potato. He works at a middling, electronics job, and once a zombie apocalypse breaks out, it's up to him to rise to the occasion, to be the hero, to save his family and his friends. And so this is a great twist on the zombie film, because it's every great zombie film it just sort of is the way it is for this genre, because it's where it starts with Night of the Living Dead, is that the zombie film is deeply rooted in political issues or exploring social ills. And so while this is a comedy, it does explore the zombie, or uses the zombie film to explore, our capitalist society of convenience, and creating a society of slackers and loafers. And this is a great film that show the zombie apocalypse to shake people out of that. And so, this is a fantastic film. I mean, it's funny as hell. It made international stars out of Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and the director Edgar Wright. It's just a hell of a good picture.
I have to say, there is no I in team, but there is an I in pie. And in meat pie, there is a team. I love this movie. This is my favorite zombie movie ever, especially since I don't really like zombie movies. But like, I love Shaun of the Dead.
It's great.
When they pretend to be zombies walking down the street, and it actually fools the other zombies, like that's a question we all were wondering. Like, why don't they just pretend to be a zombie? The zombies are dumb; they'll not know. But like, and then they ask the one question that no zombie movies ever do, but everyone secretly knows they want to know. The movie dare ask, if your partner turns into a zombie, are you still married to them, and do you still sleep with them? I mean, they asked that question in Shaun of the Dead. It's like, oh my goodness. It's like they don't pull any punches with this one. And it is hilarious, but it also like has some really some really deep themes to it. You know, what do you do when someone you loved is taken away from you in a way that you cannot control? How do you deal with tragedy and being put in a situation that you just there's nothing you can do except for make a series of bad choices, and yet they
Yeah,
do it
exactly.
with such I don't want to say ease, but with such flow and comedy and lightheartedness. And like I said, gotta be my favorite zombie movie ever. And Gregory Day, you're 5 for 5 right now, my friend. You're rocking
Yeah,
it.
we're doing well here, doing well.
Hmm. All right, so take us in for your top five. Where are you going to number five?
Yeah, starting number five. We're going to the war subgenre of the men on a mission movie with Inglorious Bastards from 2009. I gotta just preface by saying, I think the resurgence of genre cinema since the 90s has really been because of Quentin Tarantino and the way he and a lot many colleagues around him really talked up old genre cinema, and it's kind of added this attention, put a spotlight on it, and brought back a lot of things. And well, the Men on a Mission movie has been around for a while. I mean, there's like The Dirty Dozen and Kelly's Heroes. It goes all the way back to Seven Samurai, and you can still see it in blockbusters now, like Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy, films like that. Usually, it's more of a film of like soldiers on a mission, most likely a suicide mission, and they're most likely guys who are court-martialed or already going to be killed. Maybe they're POWs, who knows, in these different kinds of films. But this is a great film because it takes all that, flips it on its head, and makes these men on a mission who are just out to annihilate the Nazis. And one of the things I love about this film is that it kind of takes a the historical film and kind of makes it a product of entertainment. It kind of proves that not all historical films need to be deadly serious or strive for accuracy. You can make a fun film that allows us to show certain awful people in our history getting blown to hell. So I mean, this is a film that stars Brad Pitt. I mean, this is a hugely famous film. Who's the leader of the bastards, and they go on there scalping and murdering and sabotaging Nazis. And whether you agree with it or not, I think it does add a lot of high entertainment value to watch. The level of violence on screen in this movie. So I had to add this one because that is a genre into itself, the Men on a Mission, and I think it is a little bit watered down when it comes to these superhero films, and so this is a great example of like what's the true heart of this kind of film is.
Okay, I call shenanigans and veto. And I'm going to tell you why, because you cannot say a Quentin Tarantino film in 2009 about World War II starring Brad Pitt and so many other major stars is a genre flick. I mean, really? Well, okay, so that's kind of a statement and a question. Okay, so like back to what is genre? Can genre be something that is so mainstream like Quentin Tarantino by 2009 and Inglorious Bastards? What do you, can it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think every single one of Tarantino's films is, maybe with the exception of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, is a genre film or playing within these exploitation cinema genres. He's just one of the only filmmakers who's able to take that genre and then make millions of dollars off of it. I mean, I think each one of them, I could break down the genre he's working in them. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think genre cinema has to be regulated to its success. I mean, this movie, I don't know how much it made, but it made over $100 million at the box office or whatever. So yeah, I think it definitely qualifies for
Okay, well
genre cinema.
then now I have to, and I have no problem with this, readjust how I define genre. I would have never put a mainstream movie like Inglorious Bastards as a genre flick.
Yeah.
I just always associate genre flicks as like kind of B movies, or low production value, low cost. Even if they do have a couple big stars, like still like it's not something that's going to be played on every single theater or every single screen around the country. But Inglorious Bastards was by no means any of what I just said.
No, but I do think if you compare the movie to what a genre film is, it's doing all of the things that genre films do. And no one else is really doing that. I mean, I don't. If he wasn't the director of this movie, I don't think a major studio would have funded it the way it did, and if it did fund it, it would be a B movie.
Right, and you wouldn't have your
Yeah,
Brad Pitts and everyone
right,
else.
correct, yeah.
No, I think you're right, and I think that's interesting because I do think this is a great movie, and I think to me this is one of the best World War II movies that is out there, especially for our generation. A lot of your older World War II movies I find are inaccessible to younger generations. Like we're just not interested, and even those younger than us right now, we're not interested in watching old black and white World War II movies. Like give us something different, and I think Inglorious Bastards does. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you're right. You know, whether you agree or not with the level of violence that the film portrays,
Mm.
there was an extreme level of violence during World War II.
Oh, sure.
So whether you want to see it or not doesn't take away from the fact that it
Mm.
existed.
Yeah.
So I think my friend, you're 6 for 6. Even though I borderline call shenanigans veto on it, but since you tell me you were the one who defines what genre means to me, so I take your definition, so this counts.
Yeah.
So you're 6 for 6. There we go. All
All right.
right, let's see if you can go 7 for 7. What's number 4?
Yeah, number 4, we're coming really close to modern day. Is I wanted to include this Decision to Leave from last year. The reason I chose this film is because film noir is one of the biggest genres there is, and I mean, to define that, I guess for folks who don't know what that is, there's the thriller, there's the crime film, and in the 40s there was this sort of movement in American cinema that kind of involved crime and thriller together, but it was in these deep, I would say, like a deep need for examining the moral ambiguity that America was experiencing after it came out of the war. And they don't all necessarily address the war, but they do address new realities or new perception of life that maybe cinema wasn't really addressing before that. And so they were made in these they made these crime thrillers that had like these deep shadows, and you know maybe the hero wasn't so above boards, and he was also tempted by femme fatales and all kinds of different gangsters and such. And so last year, Park Chan-wook, the director of Old Boy, many other great classics from South Korea, comes out with this great picture called Decision to Leave. And it's about this cop who's investigating this death of this businessman, and he falls in love with the main suspect, who is the dead man's wife. And so as the investigation is unfolding, and it's looking like she's, all the evidence is pointing towards the fact that maybe she may be the murderer, he is falling deeper and deeper in love with her. And so it does paint this portrait of a man who is conflicted about his morals as he's starting to feel for this woman. It's very reminiscent of Vertigo and a film like Double Indemnity, where it's where it doesn't have maybe as much as provocative sex and violence in it, but it's definitely a genre unto itself that's just kind of exploring these deep-rooted moral conflicts, centered around our justice, or not our justice system, but around a justice system. So yeah, this is a great picture that just reminiscent of classic Hollywood cinema, that's telling a fresh tale in the modern era.
Now, Gregory Day, I did not know you watch new movies. Like really, I thought a movie had to be 30 years old or older for you to watch it. And here you come up with something from 2022. I was like, "Oh, I cannot wait to see what he has to say about this." But then I watched the trailer and I understood why you chose it. Like I know this director and their works and their films. It's extremely well-known South Korean director. I've never seen this film, but I know who some of the stars are, and the filming techniques and the cinematography and the dialogue and just the whole trailer and the story and an intrigue that you told us already. It all combines to make this really compelling trailer that draws you, and it says you need to watch this movie just to see what happens. Like it
Mm-hmm.
perks my interest. I want to know, does he fall for the woman? Did the woman kill her husband? Is she just playing the cop, or is she really innocent and just they're falling in love because people fall in love, you know? Like I would say yes. You are 7 for 7, my friend. This
Yeah,
one
it's a
looks
great
really
movie.
good.
I mean, I do
And I
watch a
have
lot of modern films. I would have to say, I don't like to include them in Hipsville, as it's not the aim of what I'm doing there. Um, but like, there's a lot of great modern genre films that do come out, and this is definitely one of them. And so, yeah, I do try to keep my ear to the street and see what's going on in modern releases.
I dig it. I dig it a lot. Well, let's see what you got then for number three.
Yeah, number three, if we're talking genre films, we got to talk about the car movie. It's it's a staple of American cinema, and I think most people are familiar with the Fast and the Furious franchise as some of the most popular car films in modern day. But those movies are really, for a while, have been really going towards superhero movies, to be honest, and they're major blockbusters at this point. And so, what I want to talk about is Nicholas Winding Refn's breakout film Drive from 2011. It's the Ryan Gosling starring vehicle about a getaway driver who, his life of crime and his relationship to automobiles has kind of made him, he's not the most communicative, emotionally communicative individual. And so he meets this woman and her son, and he starts to spend time with them, and it starts to open him up emotionally, and he starts to become a human being again. But as he's doing this, he then gets intertwined with these gangsters in LA, and it draws him back into the violent life that he's always been associated with. So this is a great genre film that pulls influences from like the neo-noir films of the 70s, like The French Connection or The Driver, and the neon pastiche of 1980s cinema, like American Gigolo and films like that. It's just a cool, slick movie that's got two spectacular practical car chases in the film that I would highly recommend. If you haven't seen this film, go at least check out the car chases. They're spectacular. This is a great little like a minimalist crime film that really brought this kind of car film back into the into the cultural conversation of cinema.
This one really reminded me of, which I've never seen it before, but it really reminded me of films like Baby Driver, and Transporter or The Transporter, just starring Ryan Gosling. But I will tell you, for the most part, like Ryan Gosling in his films, they don't really interest me. But there is one of his films that I really like a lot, and I have been waiting for him to go back to a kind of role like this film, and that's Nice Guys.
Oh, okay.
I really like that film, and when I started watching this trailer, I immediately started getting vibes of that Ryan Gosling, and I was like, you know what? I was like, I dig this. I was like, he's a stunt driver for Hollywood film during the day, and on the flip side of his life, he's a getaway driver. And then the bad people come, and he has to make a choice, and it just goes. And it's driven by the action, and but also a compelling story, but a simple story, but compelling, that's beefed up by the action. And I've been waiting to see Ryan Gosling take some kind of role like this again, to where he can really chew on it, not just be a romantic comedy or a romantic, but something different for him. And so this one, I'm going to say you were 8 for 8. I want to check this one out. I want to see how
Yeah,
Ryan Gosling does. Does he go back to the Nice Guys? Have you seen the Nice Guys?
I have seen The Nice Guys. It's a good film, but I would say it's a little different. This film, and then there's another film that the director and he did right after this called Only God Forgives. I would recommend both of them. They're very internal performances where there's not a lot of dialogue on his part, and I find them compelling. A lot of people don't, I think, because he's just staring at the camera and not saying anything sometimes. But you're really, if you get into the movie, you're into this guy who's all the workings are happening inside, and you're watching this emotional struggle on the inside of this person. And so yeah, I would say, like, as far as Gosling roles go, it definitely leans on that side of like the good part of what what makes Ryan Gosling a good performer versus some of the films that I think I won't get into, but I think you and I both agree that some of his films aren't that appealing.
Yeah, we won't get into it. All right, what you got coming in at number two? Let's see. You're
Yeah,
getting close to the end. I'm curious.
yeah.
Can you go 10 for 10 at this point?
We'll see. This is probably the most difficult movie on the list, although it's a highly
You
entertaining film.
don't say.
It is so entertaining. It's so much fun. It's a film. It's called The Love Witch from 2016. This is the labor of love from director Anna Biller. I mean, she's a fantastic writer and director. She's funny as hell, and this film is very funny, but it's also very pastiche. I chose this film because this is the most genre film I think I could think of that references genres that really don't exist anymore. So this is like pulling from like 60s psychedelic films, 70s exploitation movies, and just a bunch of weird probably European influences from like the European 60s and 70s films. But to name a few films like Venus and Furs, The Velvet Vampire, and in like the American film Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, just a lot of strange influences pulled into this film. But it's about this woman named Elaine, who is a very beautiful woman, but has a terrible time keeping relationships going. And she's a practicing witch, and so she uses sex magic to ensnare men. But every time she puts this spell on them, they end up dying, and so she is kind of becoming a serial killer. And so as the men keep dying around her, her best friend and this stud of a cop that she's also into are, you know, getting closer and closer to figuring out, you know, what's going on around her. So it's a great like feminist film as well, because it is getting to the heart of like this woman who just wants to be loved and just be engaged with, but most men only see her for her beauty and want to use her. And so it's the reason she's really using this magic on men, is to try to have someone who is going to love her instead of treat her as an object. So it's a fantastic movie. I mean, the director, Anna Biller, she not only wrote it and directed it, she designed all the costumes, she shot the movie on film, she did all the set design. And so it's just, it has this great lush technicolor quality to it. It's a labor of love. She hasn't made a movie since then. She's, you know, her films take a long time to make because she does make them all like tactile. And yeah, this is a spectacular genre film. That probably pulls from a lot of influences that most people, you know, most modern audiences, I would say, don't have a reference for. But the movie, when you watch it, isn't difficult at all. So it's a highly entertaining flick that I can't recommend enough.
The Love Witch, made in 2016, truly looked like a 1960s movie. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. I've never seen this one, but I could have sworn, I was like, was this really filmed in 2016? Because it looked like throwback 60s so much. And hearing you talk about the director, how she wrote it, she filmed it, she did the set design, the costume design, like she created her own world. And it
Yes.
looked fantastic. Like the story was so compelling that, you know, this witch, she just wanted love, and she was going about practicing witchcraft to get that love, but it wasn't working out, and like you said, ends up becoming a serial murderer as a byproduct of it. Like, I want to know where the story goes. It's an awesome story, but you're just drawn into the world and the visuals so much that you're just like, I want to live in this world, even if it's just for an hour and a half, because this world doesn't exist anymore. The 1960s are gone. And I mean, I will say gladly the 1960s are gone. And no, I didn't experience it, listeners. I'm not that old. But still,
Yeah.
like, there was a whole bunch of craziness of the 1960s. I'm glad they're over with. But 1960s look like this film pulls off. It's incredible. And it doesn't exist in filmmaking anymore. At least I don't see it. So you're 9 for 9 with this one. I want to check this one out just to see how it ends and to be a part of that world that the director, writer, and set designer that she creates. I want to be a part of that world.
Yeah, it's a hell of a picture.
All right, so we got one left, and where are you taking us for your top 10, your number one for the 21st century genre flicks?
Yeah. Number one, I chose the most genre movie of the 21st century. And what I mean by that is it packs so many genres into it, but it doesn't ever feel like one false move, or that it doesn't incorporate anything that the movie doesn't need. And we're talking about Mandy from 2018, the Nicolas Cage revenge-o-matic. We can't talk about genre films without talking about revenge movies. So but this is unlike any other revenge movie. I mean, it mixes so many things together. I mean, it's got, not only does it have its revenge plot, but we got influences from like Heavy Metal Magazine, D&D. We got Hellraiser references. We got occultism, heavy metal music, and all of that blended together with a heavy dose of psychedelic uh, art. Really makes for a truly unique experience. And it stars our boy Nicolas Cage, who witnesses his girlfriend Mandy murdered by this religious hippie cult, and he goes on a full-on killing spree, just crushing skulls and chainsawing people to death. I mean, it really plays out like a Conan movie, where it's this revenge trip awakens his barbaric rage, and he's just uh, moving mountains to get to the guys who wronged him and killed his girlfriend. So, but outside of the thrilling parts of the film, the violence and the visual style, because it is very visually arresting, it's the tenderness between the main character Red and Mandy that really makes the film, and their love and his willingness to take action, or his emotion that comes out of their love and his journey, not only changes the landscape of the world, but it also reaches the cosmos very literally in this film. It's just a great film. It's something new. It's something I've never seen before. It's just changes genre forever. And here we are with the staple, just changing everything. I can't say it before I start repeating myself. Just can't say it anymore. This is probably the best genre film of the 21st century so far. And so, yeah, I can't recommend this movie enough.
And another one from really recently, 2018. I am impressed, sir. I am so impressed. But that being said, this trailer, which I've never seen the movie, but this trailer looked creepy and scary as hell. And I was like, dude, you've lost me. I was like, you cannot go 10 for 10 anymore. I was like, this is just too genre for me. And I was like, I'm out. I'm out. And then it turns into a Nicolas Cage movie. And I'm like, oh, hell yes. What the fuck is going on with this shit, man? Like, for real. I was like, Nicolas Cage was dialed to 11, 12, yes. 15. And I was just like, okay, crazy Nicolas Cage, like an 8mm, he is just so immersed in this role. And you're just like, this is going to be crazy. And I realized that whatever it may have started off as being scary, to rope you in and kind of pull you and give the movie stakes, like I can imagine, and again, I haven't seen it, so I don't know, but then like once Nick Cage gets into his role of going crazy, like you're pulled out of being scared and you're more just like into it, and then you're just like along for the ride. So yeah. You have me intrigued with this one, my friend. Absolutely. I will say you are 10 for 10 today.
All right.
And I think that may be the first time ever. I don't know. We never kept score before. We never kept score, but like I always keep a tally kind of in my head. I was like, I'll put that one on the list, that one on the list, that one on the list, that one. No, never going on the list. But all 10, and that's fantastic. But now we come have a few questions like we always do. And you said it earlier. You said this is your first original top 10 list of the year. Why did you decide this was the one that you wanted to start with?
Yeah, I'd say because we talk about it pretty frequently about how old the picks are. I talk about, and a lot of the films that I write about on my blog, they are older films. And I've expressed my opinion before that I do think the greatness of cinema or the heights of cinema is behind us. And now there are these, every now and then something new comes out or something good comes out, but it's not like the breadth of what we used to have from the industry. But having said all that, and I say it a lot that I'm not really intrigued by a lot of modern movies, I did want to put out there, put this list together, put it out there. There is a lot of great films still being made today, and there's especially genre films. A lot of younger filmmakers are taking influence from older films and updating them. And trying to bring these things back in different ways and in new ways, or taking
more accessible ways too, like Inglourious Bastards, bringing back World War II flicks in a reinvigorating kind of way for the genre.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, a lot of these are also like genre mashups. And so they're pulling influences from all over, and they're making new and exciting things. And so I did just want to present this list so that, just kind of talking out of the other side of my mouth that there is still exciting movies coming out, and there's still exciting filmmakers out there. And so, yeah, that's kind of the point of this list.
I like it. I like it a lot. And 10 films, it's so limiting whenever there's like a million movies, especially even in the 21st century alone. Movies are coming out so much faster than they used to come out. Production times, even and post-production time especially, has been like decreased in time, right? So like you can really pump out a film way quicker than you could in the past. So we get so many different films today, and then plus streaming, and then straight to streaming. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. So 10 films is so difficult. What are you runners up? You got some that you couldn't make down to 10 that you had to cut out?
Yeah. I got a couple here. One, there's the great genre mashup, the film called A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which is a sort of a hangout gangster spaghetti western vampire flick.
I did notice that in the
Yes.
trailer. I was like, is this a Western vampire urban? I was like, what is going on here?
Yes. Yeah, it is all those things, but it's also set in a fictional Iranian village
That
or
was another
town.
thing. I was like, is
Yeah,
this the
it's in
Middle East?
Farsi. Yeah, it's in Farsi. It was shot in America, but it's in Farsi. The filmmaker, her, I guess she's first generation American. Her parents are from Iran. They migrated here, but so this whole, it's everything about like the genres she loves. It's got a little like, almost like a Jim Jarmusch influence 80s John Hughes influence a little bit here and there, but the spaghetti western and the gangster, and it kind of really the vampire in the film is so iconic looking in her black and white striped shirt with her I'm sorry if this is the wrong term, but her burqa that she's wearing, and skateboarding through the town. So it's this wholly new look vampire. But another thing that I wanted to bring up was Black Dynamite. The blaxploitation film. Kind of, it is a parody of it, much like Shaun of the Dead is a parody of the zombie film, but it is also hitting all the notes of the great blaxploitation films. And a lot of those films were very kooky to for lack of a better term. They weren't always serious, like some like Coffee or something like that, where they started introducing like kung fu and making fun of pimps and things like that. And so Black Dynamite goes for that. But I want to give another shout out to Everything Everywhere All at Once that came out last year.
I
That's
still need to see this.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I mean, but it's it's a multiverse film, which is something that's gaining popularity in cinema these days. But I think what genre, to speak to genre films, is pulling in a ton of influence from Hong Kong cinema and martial arts cinema. I mean, Michelle Yeoh was the star of the film. She's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Yes, Madam, and Magnificent Warriors, and she's just in Super Cop. She's in a ton of these films, and it's a big reference to all of that, her history as well as the romantic films from Hong Kong. And so, and that movie is probably going to go on and win the Best Picture award at the Academy Awards this year. Or if not, it's a big contender for it. And so you're looking at genre cinema being reworked, this love letter of it being reworked into this film that's gained international attention. So yeah, there's just probably a dozen more I could rattle off, but those are the three I wanted to bring up.
I like them. I like them. And do you have the dates offhand for whenever the other two movies came out? So Everything Everywhere All at Once came out just last year, 2022. What about the other two?
Yeah. Let's see. I think The Girl Walks Home Alone and that was maybe in 2011, I want to say, and then Black Dynamite is a little older. It's from, let's see, 2009. Sorry, Girl Walks Home Alone is 2014. Black Dynamite is 2009.
Excellent. I just wanted to get those dates in
Yeah.
there too for people. They all look incredibly well. Like films that I would really sit down with and digest and be like, you know what? I dig this. I dig this a lot.
Yeah.
But now let me ask you, you've even mentioned it. I've made pokes and jokes at you before about genre films, and normally your genre picks are older.
Mm-hmm.
And since the focus of today's list was 21st century genre flicks, I automatically thought, especially after watching these, I wanted to ask you if you felt there was this distinct difference between 21 or 21. We're leaving it in. I'm not going to edit it out. It's just too much work to edit out. But is there a distinct difference between 21st century genre flicks versus, for instance, 1980s genre flicks? Like, or are they all just genre? But I wanted to ask you, like, what's the big deal?
Yeah, there is, I would say, a big difference between genre films from a bygone era. Yeah, I think a lot of older films, one, our political culture has changed. So modern genre films aren't as on PC as older films, just our culture is. Still doing a lot of the same things, still focusing on the violence. Sex is obviously not something that's as intertwined in our modern genre world as they used to be. Like just for instance, like Roger Corman, the great producer of exploitation cinema, he would task his directors with every 15 minutes or so there needed to be nudity, or every 15 minutes there needed to be violence or a car chase. And so it was these every reel or whatever there would be loop back around to what the audience was looking for in these exploitation cinema, in these exploitation films. But I think one big thing, if anyone out there is listening is well versed with older exploitation films, is what's truly lacking from a modern context is the cruelty that older films would focus on. And I don't know if it's a product of especially like with American films, or Asian cinema, with some of their exploitation films could be really mean. And I don't know if it's a product of like coming out of the Nixon administration and the ambiguity of the Watergate scandal, or the Vietnam War happening in Southeast Asia. And so a lot of these films were, I don't know if they were a reaction to mainstream cinema not addressing those things, or if they are a reaction to seeing a lot of these things happening on the news. And but there is a mean streak that could run through a lot of these exploitation films, just watching people get tortured, or the fact that there's no, some of these films had no true hero, and so you didn't really know who to root for in them. And so that, I think, to me, that's the biggest difference, is that there's not a level of cruelty injected into these modern films. There are cruel things that happen, but the movie itself doesn't seem like it's focusing on cruelty. Whereas in the past, like, it really felt like it was an aim of the filmmakers is to display cruelty on screen, and the movie itself felt very nihilistic and cruel. Whereas now they feel more aimed at entertainment, despite the fact that some cruel things could happen in the film.
I get you. So you're saying like exploitation film back in the day would be more realistic at showing and exploiting the real world cruelty that takes place around us, where more current genre does not take that route? Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, in a way. Yeah, I think it's more stylized now than it maybe was in especially in the 70s. A lot of the films were just plain mean and cruel. I'd say that all of them were, and probably it's probably just a subsection of genre films. But yeah, there's just a meanness and a level of cruelty that most films now don't strive for, and it's maybe a generational thing. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't around then, but if you watch films like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Cannibal Holocaust or Poor Pretty Eddie, things like that, they're very mean spirited. And it's not just the bad guys doing mean things; it's just the film itself feels very mean.
That's maybe why I don't like scary movies, because they feel mean to me. I get you though, and so that's interesting. And I would have never picked up on something like that as not being a genre person, but I figured there had to be some, at least smallest amount of difference. If we're looking over 30, 40 years, like there had to
Yeah,
be a difference, had to be.
yeah.
All right, one last question for you, two-parter for you, the one we always like to end with. Um, why is this list important to you, and why should other people view this list as important? You can answer them separately or together. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I love genre movies. It's
You
like,
don't say.
yeah. If you haven't heard me before, or you don't know me, then yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think so. Yeah, I wanted to make this list, and these are a lot of my favorite new films that I wanted to talk about. So it just brings me pleasure just talking about them. But what's important to other folks is, every movie you watch is in a genre of some kind, whether it's the blockbuster superheroes or disaster films or whatever. And so these are more of the nitty gritty, genres that we're in, and kind of digging deeper into what genres can be, or offshoots of genres, or genre mashups can be. And so, while our majority of our cinema is dominated by these big tentpole things, I wanted to just spotlight some other flicks that are highly entertaining. Like all 10 of these films, like you watch them, if you did a marathon of all 10 of these films, you're gonna have a hell of a good time. So yeah, so just want to throw it out there, and if people are interested in genre cinema, and maybe genre cinema is antiquated to them, and they see older movies, and they, maybe you're not into older movies, the language that older films have, or the sexism in older films, or the racism that's presented in older films is something that you don't want to see. You watch these new interpretations of these for a modern context, you might get a kick out of them, whereas older genre films may not offer that for you. So I'm hoping that, yeah, if anyone's interested in genre cinema but has never got into them, the gateway to that would be through some of these newer films.
I love it. I mean, that's great because, like I had said with older World War II films. They're inaccessible to a lot of us. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, you know, even myself, I don't really like turning back the clock and watching older films because for a lot of the reasons that you said, like, I don't like seeing films that have so much sexism and racism and misogyny and bigotry in them. Like, I know they existed. In my spare time when I'm trying to relax, I don't want it thrown in my face.
Right.
Like, and those were so prevalent in the well, even up to like the 1990s, people were still
Mm-hmm.
starting to learn about levels of appropriateness. And like, you know, you would look at your friend and be like, you maybe shouldn't say that. And if you do say that, you shouldn't say it in public. Like, you know, the times were
Mm-hmm.
different.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, could you make that argument that a lot of the, especially exploitation film and genre film, they're reflections of what was happening in reality, and in reality people were talking in that fashion, people were acting in that fashion, so it was like a mirror. And for that, I think it's extremely important to represent and let other people know that this was in fact the way that it was back then. But for me, this is now 2023. I was like, I don't need to go watch a 1971 film to know all those things were happening and horrible. And so for 50 years later, if I could watch a reimagining of one of them in a current context, yeah, I might actually watch that, you know? So I could see that line of thinking be incredibly important for a new audience, a younger audience that do want to get into genre film, that want to get into something different than your blockbusters, your Fast and the Furious, or your Avatars, your Marvel, or your DC. They want something different. So I think, yeah, this is great for that, without a doubt. Gregory Day, you are 10 for 10. And you know what? For every list now, I'm gonna start keeping score for you. That's what we're
Hell
gonna do.
yeah.
We have been talking about what are some things that we could do to kind of vary it up. That's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna start keeping score.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, before we cut out, why don't you tell the good people where can they check you out at Hipsville AD?
Yeah, you can follow me at HipsvilleAD on Instagram. And then over on my Substack, I'm on badday.substack.com. And check out my blog.
Excellent. And again, thank you as always for coming on. Always such a great time with you, Gregory Day.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
And that's Hipsville AD's top 10 list. Check out our friend Gregory Day online. Follow him everywhere at Hipsville AD. And always remember that Lofi Poli Sci is more than just me. It's the we that we be. Talk to you soon, Lofi listeners. Pickering and Day, signing off.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci. Inglorious bastards.
Oh, yeah, you know.